I hate my son's wife. And I love my son. Those two truths live in the same house inside my chest, sharing a wall so thin they keep bumping into each other. The night I realised something had to change, we were all sitting around my dining table in a quiet suburb in Ohio, pretending this was a normal family dinner. My son Daniel was cutting chicken nuggets into tiny pieces for my grandson. My daughter-in-law Megan was scrolling through her phone between bites of salad. I was watching everything and saying almost nothing, which is not my natural state. "No more ketchup," Megan said sharply, taking the bottle out of 3-year-old Noah's hand. "But I want it," he whined. "You've had enough sugar today," she replied. "Remember? We talked about this." I bit my tongue. He's 3, for God's sake, I thought. Ketchup is not crystal meth. "Grandma has more," Noah said, reaching his little hand toward my plate, where there was, in fact, more ketchup. I smiled at him. "We can share, honey." Megan's eyes snapped to mine. "Actually," she said, voice tight, "we're trying to teach him that no means no. One serving is enough." I felt my cheeks burn. "It's just ketchup," I said, trying to sound light. "When Daniel was his age, he practically drank the stuff." "And we know a lot more about nutrition now than we did 30 years ago," Megan replied. The air at the table went thin. Daniel cleared his throat. "Mum," he said gently, "we're trying to be consistent with him. It helps." I looked at my son, my baby, my only child, now 32 with faint lines at the corners of his eyes, and felt something sharp twist inside me. I hate my son's wife, but I love my son. "I am consistent," I said, a little too loudly. "Consistently loving. My house, my rules, right?" Megan's jaw tightened. "He's our son," she said. "Our rules." There it was. I saw Daniel's hand tense around his fork. Here we go, I thought. Round 47 of the same quiet war. I could feel the words building in my throat, about how I'd raised a good man without all these new age rules, about how she was controlling, about how every visit turned into a list of what I wasn't doing right. Instead, I looked at my grandson. His big brown eyes were flicking between us, sensing the tension, ketchup forgotten. He didn't understand the words. He understood the temperature. I swallowed the speech. We finished dinner. We cleaned up. We smiled for pictures. Later, as they stood in my doorway ready to leave, I bent to hug Noah. "Did you have fun at Grandma's?" I asked. He nodded, his little arms squeezing my neck. "Can we come back?" he asked. I opened my mouth to say, "Anytime, sweetheart," but stopped, because I knew that wasn't true. They come back when Megan lets them, I thought bitterly. I stood up and hugged Daniel. "I love you, Mum," he said, kissing my cheek. "I love you too," I replied. When it was Megan's turn, we did our usual choreography, a brief, stiff hug that felt more like a business handshake. "Thanks for dinner," she said. "Thanks for coming," I replied. The door closed behind them with a soft click. The house fell silent. I walked back into my kitchen, cleared the plates, wiped the table. The smell of chicken and dish soap and the lemon candle I'd lit earlier hung in the air. By the time I sat down at the small table with a cup of tea, the sentence that had been rattling around in my head all evening finally formed itself clearly. I hate my son's wife. I flinched at my own honesty. Then, immediately on its heels, but I love my son. And suddenly, something I'd been refusing to look at for years came into sharp focus. Every eye roll, every snide comment, every time I accidentally broke one of her rules with Noah, every time I forced Daniel to stand in the middle between us. I could keep doing this and maybe eventually lose him. Or I could choose something else. I didn't know what something else looked like yet. But sitting there in my quiet Ohio kitchen, at 58 years old, I knew one thing with a clarity that scared me. I would rather learn how to live with a daughter-in-law I don't like than become the kind of mother who makes her son choose. I wish I could tell you I figured it out overnight, but that's not how this works. This is the story of how I went from, I hate my son's wife, but I love my son, to something softer, messier, and truer. I don't always like my son's wife, but I'm learning to respect her, because I love my son, and he loves her. And how, along the way, I discovered that sometimes the most loving thing a mother can do is step back. To understand why this was so hard for me, you need to know how it was before Megan. For a long time, it was just me and my boy against the world. I had Daniel when I was 26. His father, Mark, and I were married for exactly 8 years and 3 days. The last 2 years of that, if I'm honest, we were just roommates with rings. He left when Daniel was 6. There was no big scandal, no dramatic affair revealed at Thanksgiving, no blow-up fight with dishes breaking against the wall. Just a slow drifting apart, and then one morning, a suitcase by the door. "I'm sorry, Linda," he'd said, not quite meeting my eyes. "For what?" I'd asked, though I already knew. "For not wanting this anymore." This meaning us, our house, our little family. "You're still his father," I'd said, holding on to that like a lifeline. "I'll always be his father," he'd replied. And he was, in the way some men are. Birthday calls, every other weekend visits that became once a month, then holidays, then, "I'll make it up to you, buddy." The day I watched Daniel sit by the window with his backpack on for an hour, waiting for a dad who didn't show up for pickup, something inside me hardened. That night, as I tucked him into bed, he asked, "Is it me? Did I do something?" "No," I said fiercely. "No, baby, you did nothing wrong." "Then why doesn't he want to come?" he whispered. My heart cracked. "I don't know," I said honestly, "but I do know this. I am here. I'm not going anywhere. You and me, we're a team." He nodded sleepily. "Team Blake," he murmured, using our last name. "Team Blake," I repeated. From then on, that's what we were. We lived in a small 2-bedroom house on the edge of Columbus. I worked full-time at a dental office and part-time at a grocery store on weekends for a while. We didn't have much, but what we had, we shared. Soccer games, school plays, late-night grilled cheese when he couldn't sleep. I was there. When other kids' dads showed up to Donuts with Dad Day at school, I was the mum who crashed the party after talking to the teacher. "Well, someone has to show up for him," I'd said, chin lifted. Daniel was my purpose, my joy, my proof that I was more than abandoned. We had our rituals: Friday night pizza and movie, Saturday morning pancakes. Thanksgiving, just the two of us the first few years after the divorce, where we made a tiny turkey breast and watched the parade on TV. "I don't need a man," I'd say, half joking, half not. "I've got my boy." He'd grin that gap-toothed grin and say, "Yeah, just us, Mum." Of course, I knew he'd grow up, that he'd have a life that didn't revolve around me forever. That was the whole goal, in theory. But in practice? When you spend years being someone's whole world, it's very hard to become just a part of it later. The first time Daniel mentioned Megan, he did it casually, like she was just another co-worker. "We got a new nurse at the clinic," he said one night, stirring sugar into his coffee at my kitchen table. "Her name's Megan. She's from Michigan. She's funny." "Funny ha-ha or funny weird?" I asked. He laughed. "Both, I guess." He talked about her again a few weeks later. "Megan says I need to stop drinking office coffee and start bringing my own," he said, rolling his eyes. She's one of those pour-over snobs. You always liked bossy women, I teased. He made a face. She's not bossy, she just has opinions. I didn't worry then. Daniel had had girlfriends before. Nice enough girls who came and went, leaving behind half-empty bottles of shampoo in his bathroom and the occasional hoodie I'd find on his couch when I came over. He was in his late 20s. It was normal. When he finally said, "I want you to meet her," I felt a flicker of something sharp and green. Jealousy. I buried it under a smile. "Of course," I said. "I can't wait." We chose a neutral location, a casual restaurant with good burgers and noisy acoustics. No one could accuse anyone of judging anyone's home. I got there early. I wore my nicest jeans and a blouse I'd bought on sale. I put on lipstick, which I almost never do. I wanted to make a good impression. To show her I wasn't some sad, needy mum clinging to her son. I also wanted her to know, in some unspoken way, that Daniel wasn't alone. He came from somewhere. From someone. She walked in 5 minutes late, laughing at something Daniel said. She was pretty. Not movie star gorgeous, but the kind of pretty that grows on you. Bright eyes, a quick smile, hair pulled into one of those messy buns that probably took longer to style than my neat ponytail. "Megan, this is my mum," Daniel said, sounding proud. "Mum, this is Megan." I stood, extending my hand. "It's so nice to finally meet you," I said. Instead of shaking my hand, she hugged me. A quick, light hug that smelled like citrus and fabric softener. "It's nice to meet you too," she said. "Daniel talks about you all the time." My heart warmed a little at that. "Well, that makes two of us," I replied. We sat. We ordered. We talked. She was fine. She worked as a nurse at the same clinic where Daniel was a physical therapist. She liked hiking and documentaries and some kind of meditation app I'd never heard of. She said "like" a bit too often for my taste, and she was very sure of her opinions for someone under 30. Still, nothing set off sirens. If this had been the only night I ever spent with her, I might have looked back and thought, she seemed nice. But people are not only who they are at restaurants. They are who they are in kitchens and living rooms and holidays and group texts. They are who they are when they're raising your grandchild. That's where the trouble began. Part 3/6. When two women love the same man. Daniel and Megan got serious faster than I expected. Within a year, they were living together. Within 2, he was down on one knee at a park in front of a fountain, a photographer hiding in the bushes, friends waiting at a nearby restaurant to celebrate. He sent me the video. I cried, of course. I was happy for him. I was also scared. Scared of being replaced. Scared of being sidelined. Scared of losing my seat at the table of his life. The first big clash came over the wedding invitations. "Well," I said one afternoon, sitting at their dining table with a sample book full of cardstock and calligraphy in front of us. "We'll invite your Uncle Mike and Aunt Jenna, obviously, and all the cousins, and my Bible study group. They've watched Daniel grow up." Megan exchanged a glance with Daniel. "Actually," she said carefully, "we're trying to keep the guest list small, more intimate." "Of course," I said quickly. "I don't mean everyone I've ever met, just family and the people who've really been there for us." Daniel cleared his throat. "Mum," he said, "we were thinking around 80 people, total." "Oh," I said, doing quick mental math. "Well, our family alone is 20-something." And my family is 25, Megan said. So that's already half, I said. It'll be tight, but we can… I'm not inviting my Bible study group, Daniel said gently. I love that they matter to you, but Megan and I agreed. Immediate family, close extended family, and a handful of close friends. That's it. I felt my face heat. Your Bible study ladies barely know me, he added. They know you. This is our day. The words stung more than I wanted to admit. Our day. Right. Not mine. Sure, I said, forcing a smile. Of course. I'm just used to big weddings, that's all. Megan reached over and touched my arm. We really want you to feel included, she said. We were thinking maybe you could help with the rehearsal dinner instead. That could be your thing. My thing. Like I was being assigned a role in a school play. It only got worse from there. She didn't like some of the traditions I suggested. No, we're not doing a garter toss, Linda. That's creepy. She vetoed my idea of a big photo display of Daniel through the years. We want the focus on us now, not the past. She insisted on writing their own vows instead of using the ones my parents had used, which I'd always dreamed of hearing at my son's wedding. By the time the big day came, I was so full of unsaid criticisms, I was surprised I didn't burst during the ceremony. They looked beautiful, I'll give them that. Daniel in his suit, Megan in a simple lace dress, her bouquet wild and loose instead of the tight, formal arrangements I preferred. When they danced their first dance to some indie song I'd never heard of, I watched from my table, clutching a napkin in my fist. I hate my son's wife, I thought. The thought startled me. No, I corrected myself quickly. That's too strong. I dislike her. I dislike her choices. I dislike the way she doesn't include me. I love my son, I added, as if to balance the scales. Later, when Noah was born, 2 years into their marriage, I thought, this is my chance. Grandmothers are different. Nobody can keep me away from my grandbaby. I was wrong. Not because Megan was cruel, because we were fundamentally different people trying to share the same small circle. She was very modern mum. Organic baby food, limited screen time, Montessori toys, gentle parenting language. I was very… me. Mashed bananas in a regular bowl, cartoons, plastic toys that lit up and made noise. Because I said so, parenting. The first time I watched Noah overnight, he was 18 months old. They gave me a printed schedule. He usually wakes around 6, Megan said, handing me a typed sheet with bullet points. Breakfast by 7, snack at 10, nap at 12, lunch at 1:30. I raised a child, I said dryly. I think I can handle a day. She gave me a tight smile. I know, she said. It just helps him feel safe when things are predictable. I wanted to say, he's a toddler, not a diplomat. But I nodded. That night, I let him stay up an extra half hour to finish a movie and gave him ice cream after dinner because he laughed so hard when it got on his nose. The next day, when they came to pick him up, he ran to Megan and chirped, "Ice cream!" Her eyes snapped to mine. "Oh," I said lightly. "Just a little. We had fun." "We're trying to limit sugar," she said, her voice flat. "He's fine," I replied. "He's a kid." "He was bouncing off the walls at nap time," Daniel added, trying to keep it light. "Mum, you created a tiny monster." I laughed. Megan didn't. "Well," she said, strapping Noah into his car seat. "Next time, can you stick to the schedule, please?" Her tone. Next time, can you? Hit a nerve. I'm his grandmother, not your nanny, I replied. My job is to spoil him a little. Her eyes hardened. And my job is to make sure he's healthy and regulated, she said. We can't have one set of rules at home and no rules at grandma's. Daniel stood between us, physically and emotionally. Hey, he said, we're all on the same team here. Team. There was that word again. I didn't feel like part of a team. I felt like a guest star on a show I used to headline. These conflicts multiplied. Food, bedtime, clothes. The kind of stories I told him. Can you not talk about Dad leaving in such detail, Linda? He's 3. Megan and I clashed in ways big and small. The worst part wasn't that we disagreed. It was that every disagreement ran through Daniel. Tell your mother, Daniel, you need to get your wife to understand. I could see the strain on his face, the way his shoulders tensed when both our names lit up his phone. One night, after yet another tense exchange about whether it was safe for Noah to sit in the front yard with me while I drank coffee, what if he runs into the street? I vented to my friend Carol over the phone. I hate my son's wife, I said, pacing my living room. She acts like I'm some idiot who's never seen a child before. I raised Daniel. He's fine. And you love your son, Carol said. Of course I do, I snapped. So the real question is, she said gently, what are you willing to do, or not do, to keep a relationship with him? I didn't want to answer that, because the truth scared me. Part 4/6. The moment he almost chose. The blow-up came in the form of a text message. Of course it did. It was a Sunday morning. I was getting ready for church, blouse ironed, shoes polished, when my phone pinged. Megan. The group chat with me, her and Daniel. Megan. Hey, next weekend is Noah's birthday party. Just a reminder that we're doing no gifts except books. Also, please no talking in front of him about when Daddy was little and got spanked. We don't use physical punishment and we don't want him scared or confused. The last sentence made my stomach clench. A few weeks ago, Noah had thrown a fit over leaving the playground. I'd told a story about how, when Daniel was little and refused to get in the car, I'd given him a quick swat on the butt. It got your attention, I'd told Daniel, half joking. I still remember it, he'd said, not joking. Apparently, he'd talked to Megan about it. Me. I would never hit Noah. You know that. I was just telling a story. Megan. I know, but we're trying to be intentional about the language we use and the stories we tell. It matters. Something hot flared in my chest. Me. You know what else matters? Respect. I am Noah's grandmother and Daniel's mother. I'm not one of your nurses at the clinic who has to follow your checklist. 3 dots appeared. Disappeared. Appeared again. Megan. I'm not trying to control you, Linda. I'm trying to protect our kid. Daniel. Hey, let's all take a breath. No one is attacking anyone. I stared at the screen. Me. Easy for you to say. You're not the one being treated like a problem every time you see your grandchild. Megan. I'm not treating you like a problem. But when you break our rules with him, it creates problems. If she'd been in front of me, I might have thrown something. Me. Your rules, your rules. You act like I'm some danger. Maybe I shouldn't come at all if I'm such a bad influence. Silence. Then, to my surprise, from Megan. Megan. If you're going to keep ignoring our boundaries and undermining us in front of our son, maybe you shouldn't come. The words hit like a physical blow. Do not come. My vision blurred. Daniel. Okay, enough, both of you. I waited for him to write. Mum, of course you're coming. Megan, that was too far. He didn't. Daniel. Mum, we've talked about this. Megan and I need to be a united front. He's our child. We're trying to do things differently than how we grew up. I felt like I'd been slapped. Me. So I did it wrong? That's what you two think? Daniel. That's not what I said. Me. It's what it feels like. I stared at the blinking cursor. Then my phone rang. Daniel. I answered. What? I said, my voice coming out small even to my own ears. Mum, he said, sounding tired. Can we talk like humans instead of in a group chat firing missiles at each other? I'm just telling the truth, I replied. She doesn't like me. She doesn't respect me. She wants to control everything, including you and Noah. That's not true, he said. She's trying to set boundaries. There's that word again, I snapped. Boundaries. You never used that word before you met her. Maybe I should have, he shot back. Mum, I love you. I also love my wife. I'm tired of feeling like I'm being pulled in half every time there's a disagreement. I'm tired of translating between the two of you. You're choosing her, I said, voice shaking. Yes, he said, an edge entering his voice. I did. I married her. That's what marriage is. The words stunned me into silence. He took a breath. I hate that this has turned into, I hate my son's wife, but I love my son, he continued. Because it feels like you want me without her. And that's not who I am anymore. Tears pricked my eyes. That's not fair, I whispered. Maybe not, he said softly. But that's how it feels from here. I sank down onto the edge of my bed. Are you disinviting me from my grandson's birthday? I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. No, he said quickly. No, I want you there. Noah wants you there. But I also need you to hear this. If you keep undermining Megan, if you keep breaking the rules we set for our son and making me the referee, I'm going to have to make some hard choices. Hard choices? I repeated, cold spreading through my chest. I can't keep doing this, he said. I can't keep walking into our house wondering if there's going to be another fight because you gave him something we don't allow, or told a story we've asked you not to tell. I need you in our lives, Mum. But I need you to respect that Megan and I are the parents. My throat closed. So what are you saying? I managed. He was quiet for a long moment. I'm saying I love you, he said. And I love Megan. And I'm not going to put up with open war between you two anymore. If I have to limit contact to protect my marriage and my kid, I will. I don't want to. Please don't make me choose. There it was. Not as a threat, as a reality. I had spent years saying, I hate my son's wife, but I love my son. As if those things could coexist without consequences. Now the consequences was staring me in the face. Okay, I said finally, my voice hollow. Okay, I hear you. Do you? He asked. Because I don't want to lose my mum. But I won't lose my marriage either. I need you to meet us halfway. When we hung up, I sat on the edge of my bed for a long time, phone in my hand, heart pounding. I thought of all the stories I'd heard in my Bible study group, about mother-in-laws who lost access to their grandkids because they couldn't get along with the daughter-in-law. We'd always nodded, tusked, said things like, "If that were my son's wife." And here I was, on the edge of becoming one of those stories. I thought of a line I'd heard once in a podcast, of all things. You can be right, or you can be in relationship. I wasn't entirely sure I wanted to admit I might not be right. But I knew, with a clarity as sharp as any knife in my kitchen, I did not want to lose my son. So the week before Noah's party, I did something I should have done a long time ago. I asked for help. I didn't go to therapy, though in hindsight, maybe I should have. I went to Carol's kitchen. Carol has been my friend for 20 years. We work in the same school district office. She has 3 kids, 2 of whom are married, and 4 grandchildren. She has the weary wisdom of someone who has bit her tongue enough times to know how much it bleeds. I called her and said, "I think Daniel is going to cut me off if I don't figure out how to get along with Megan." She said, "Come over. I'll put on a pot of coffee." By the time I got there, she had coffee, cookies, and tissues waiting. I told her everything about the ketchup, the ice cream, the spanking story, the text, the "I won't choose" speech. Finally, I said it out loud, words feeling like gravel in my mouth. "I hate my son's wife," I said, "but I love my son, and I don't know how to live with both those feelings without exploding." Carol stirred her coffee thoughtfully. "I don't think you hate her," she said. I glared at her. "Excuse me?" "I think you hate what she represents," Carol continued calmly. "Change, loss of control, the fact that you're not the center of your son's life anymore." "That's harsh," I said. "It's honest," she replied. "Look, Linda, I've been where you are. When my oldest married that vegan yoga girl from California," I snorted despite myself. "I thought I was going to lose my mind," she went on. "She had opinions about everything. My cooking, my beliefs, my furniture. I felt judged all the time. I wanted to scream, 'I was here first!'" She took a sip of coffee. "But you know what I realized?" she said. "My son picked her. He loves her. And if I keep attacking her, I'm attacking his choice, which means I'm attacking him." "I'm not attacking Daniel," I protested. "I'm just constantly criticizing the woman he chose to build a life with," she finished. "How do you think that feels to him?" I deflated a little. "I don't want to lose him," I said quietly. "He's all I have." She reached across the table and squeezed my hand. "He's not all you have," she said. "You have you. Or at least, you could." I didn't like the sound of that. "I'm not saying you have to become best friends with Megan," she went on. "I'm saying you might have to become less involved. On purpose." "Less involved," I repeated. "Isn't that just giving up?" "Maybe it's choosing your battles," she said. "Maybe it's accepting that 'I hate my son's wife, but I love my son' can evolve into 'I don't get her, but I respect that she's his partner,' and then behaving accordingly." "Practically," I said, "what does that even mean?" She leaned back. "It means," she said, ticking off on her fingers, "you stop giving unsolicited advice about their marriage, their house, their parenting. You answer questions when asked. You offer help with open hands, not strings. You follow their rules with the grandkids, even if you think those rules are dumb, unless it's truly dangerous or abusive, which this is not. You complain about Megan to me, not to Daniel." I made a face. "You're really selling this." She smiled. "It also means you build a life that isn't just waiting for them to need you," she added more gently. Friends, hobbies, church, volunteering. Something that makes your world bigger than their kitchen. I stared into my coffee. I'm 58, I said. I thought I'd be more settled by now, not learning how to start over. 58 is young, she said. Too young to spend the next 20 years obsessing over what kind of snacks your grandson is allowed to eat at your house. I laughed, a short, surprised burst. Look, she said. You asked me what you're willing to do to keep a relationship with Daniel. This is it. You humble yourself. You accept that some of Megan's boundaries are reasonable. You let your son be the man of his own house, even when you think he's doing it wrong. You stop making him a referee and start being his safe place again. So I just shut up, I said. Not always, she replied. Just more, and differently. You can still have a voice. You just don't get to have the only one. The week leading up to Noah's party, I had a plan. I texted Megan directly. Hey Megan, I'm sorry that our last conversation got so heated. I love you all, and I want Noah to have a happy birthday. Can you send me your plan for the party so I can support it instead of accidentally stepping on your toes? It took her a few hours to respond. Thanks for saying that, Linda. I appreciate it. I'll send you the schedule and what we're doing. She attached a document. Of course she did. I opened it. It was a lot. Times, activities, food, notes about allergies and nap windows and quiet time. Old me would have rolled my eyes and called Carol to rant. New me took a deep breath. Got it. Thank you for sharing this with me. Is there anything specific you'd like me to be in charge of? Megan, could you maybe help with setting up the snack table and keeping an eye on the trash cans? I always forget the trash. Me, I can definitely be queen of trash. A minute later, she sent a laughing emoji. It wasn't much, but it was something. I also made a promise to myself. At the party, I would not correct how they handled Noah's meltdowns, start nostalgic stories about when Daniel was little, unless asked, give him any food or gifts that weren't pre-approved. I would show up, follow their lead, and be the kind of presence I wanted them to invite back. Not because Megan deserved it, because my son did. Part 6 of 6. A different kind of love. Noah's birthday party was chaos, as all kids' birthday parties are. There were balloons, soggy paper plates, screaming toddlers, a dinosaur cake that leaned slightly to the left. I arrived on time with a platter of cut-up fruit. Yes, I asked first, and immediately reported for duty. Hey, I said to Megan as she rearranged cups on the table. Where do you want the trash bags? She blinked, surprised, then smiled. Oh, she said. There's an extra bin in the garage. Thank you. I always forget the trash. Queen of trash, that's me, I said lightly. As the party unfolded, there were plenty of moments where the old me would have jumped in with commentary. When Noah threw himself on the floor because someone else opened his present, old me would have said, well, we would have gotten a spanking for that in my house. New me stayed quiet, handed Megan a wipe, and made silly faces at a little girl nearby to distract her. When Daniel insisted on cutting the cake into tiny sugar-rationed pieces, old me would have whispered to Noah, come to Grandma later, I'll give you a real piece. New me ate my small piece and focused on how proud Daniel looked holding the knife. At one point, Noah toddled over and climbed into my lap. Grandma, he whispered conspiratorially, can I have more chips? I glanced toward the snack table. I said, lowering my voice to match his. That's a great question for your mum or dad. He pouted. But Grandma always says yes. I swallowed. Grandma loves you very much, I said. And Grandma also listens to your mum and dad's rules. So go ask, and whatever they say, I'll support. He huffed, slid off my lap, and ran to Daniel. Later, as we were cleaning up, Daniel came over with 2 cups of lukewarm soda. For us, he said, handing me one. The real heroes. I laughed. I saw what you did, he added quietly. What did I do? I asked, feigning innocence. You told Noah to ask us about the chips, he said. You didn't just give them to him behind our backs. I follow instructions well, I joked. He sobered. Thank you, he said. I know this isn't easy for you. I took a breath. Look, I said, I'm never going to be the perfect mother-in-law, whatever that is. And I still don't always understand Megan or agree with her. Sometimes I still think things like, I hate my son's wife, but I love my son. He winced slightly. I'm being honest, I said, but I'm also learning that those thoughts don't have to come out of my mouth. I can choose what I do with them. And I'm choosing you. I'm choosing to respect the life you are building, even when it doesn't look like the one I imagined for you. His eyes got shiny. Mum, he said softly, that means more than you know. We stood there for a moment, surrounded by crumpled wrapping paper and half-deflated balloons, just looking at each other. I know I've made mistakes, I said. I know I've put you in the middle too many times. I'm sorry for that. I don't want to be another problem you have to fix. He shook his head. You're not a problem, he said. You're my mum. And she's your wife, I replied. I get that now, really. I don't have to love everything about her to love that you love her. From across the yard, Megan called out, Daniel, do you know where the extra plates went? In the kitchen, he yelled back. Then more softly to me, do you think you could talk to her sometime? Just you two, without me translating? The idea made my stomach flutter, but I nodded. I can try, I said. It didn't turn into a fairy tale. This is real life. In America, in 2020-something, with Target runs and therapy appointments and group chats and too much coffee, Megan and I did talk. We met at a Starbucks halfway between our houses. We sat across from each other, 2 women who loved the same man and the same little boy in very different ways. I know I've been a lot, I said, wrapping my hands around my paper cup. Critical, defensive. I'm sorry. She blinked, clearly not expecting that. I know I've been a lot too, she said slowly. Controlling, sharp. I'm sorry too. We laughed, a little shaky. I'm trying to figure out how to be a good American mum and daughter-in-law at the same time, I said. We don't exactly get a handbook, especially not for this dynamic. We definitely don't, she agreed. I didn't grow up with a close extended family. My mum was pretty checked out. I don't always know how to let someone in without feeling like I'm being judged. We talked. We compared childhoods and parenting styles and how social media makes everyone feel like they're failing. We didn't agree on everything, but I saw, maybe for the first time, the human being under the label, my son's wife. A woman trying her best not to repeat her own mother's mistakes. A woman who loved my son and grandson with a fierce, sometimes overbearing protectiveness that looked a lot like my own. I don't need you to agree with every choice we make, she said near the end. I just need to know you're not going to undermine us. That if I say no more ice cream, you won't say, at Grandma's house we do what we want. I can do that, I said. Most days. She smiled. Good enough, she said. Now, when my phone buzzes and I see Megan's name, I don't brace for impact quite as hard. Sometimes she's just sending a picture of Noah holding up a book I gave him. Sometimes she's asking if I'm free to watch him within the parameters we've agreed on. Sometimes she still annoys me. Sometimes I probably still annoy her. But Daniel doesn't have that tight, tired look in his eyes as often. We found a fragile, workable peace. I have my own life now too. I joined a book club at church. I volunteer at the library's story time. I take a water aerobics class with women who wear bright floral swim caps and laugh too loudly. I am still Daniel's mother, still Noah's grandma, but I am also Linda, a woman who is learning, slowly, that love is not measured in how much control you have over someone's choices. It's measured in presence, in respect, in the willingness to say, I wouldn't do it that way, but I trust you enough to let you try. Sometimes, late at night, when the house is quiet and I'm scrolling through pictures of Noah at the park with his parents, that old sentence still floats up. I hate my son's wife, but I love my son. When it does, I smile a little and correct it in my mind. I love my son. I'm learning to live with, and maybe even like, his wife. And I love the family they've made more than I love being right. That, I am discovering, is what it means to be a mother of an adult child in this messy, modern American life. To hold on to your love and let go of everything else.